You know, the quest to figure out who we really are, that's probably one of life's biggest, most timeless questions, right? It's a journey that thinkers have been on for centuries. But what if the whole path to finding the answer isn't at all what we think it is? Let's dive into that. It really all kicks off with these two simple but incredibly powerful words: know thyself. Now, this isn't just some dusty old saying from a history book. It's a real challenge, a call to action. It's basically saying, hey, before you go chasing after any other goal, before you ask any other question, you've got to start with the big one. Who am I?
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The path to knowing yourself, it doesn't actually start by adding a bunch of labels and definitions. No, it starts by subtracting them. By clearing away all the stuff you are not, you get rid of the single biggest obstacle in your way. So, let's start peeling back those layers right now.
All right, so let's talk about this case of mistaken identity. See, we live in a world that is just obsessed with labels. From the time we're little kids, we start collecting them, right? Roles, titles, all these descriptions. And we get so used to them that we start to think they're who we actually are. It's such a common trap.
I mean, just think about it for a second. The very first thing that happens is we're given a name, and that becomes our main label for life. But really, what is a name? It's just a sound, a pointer. It's not the actual essence of who you are deep down.
And then there's your job. Oh man, so many of us fall into this one. We literally become our function. I am a doctor. I am a teacher. I am a parent. And look, those roles are definitely important, don't get me wrong. But the problem is when we get so wrapped up in the function that we completely forget about the living, breathing, conscious human being who's just playing that part.
Then there's our history, our whole personal story, all the wins, all the losses. We cling to these things like they define us. But here's the thing, they're just things that happened to you. They're scenes in the movie of your life, for sure, but they are not the living, present you that's here right now, in this moment.
And of course, we've got to talk about our stuff, our possessions. In the culture we live in, it is so easy to identify with what we own. We start thinking our car, our house, our phone, that these things are us. And that's exactly why losing them can feel so awful, right? It feels like we're losing an actual piece of ourselves.
Okay, and now we're getting to the big one, the deepest level for most of us. You are not that little voice in your head. Getting to know your true self isn't about swapping out old beliefs for new ones. It's about having that aha moment where you realize you are the awareness behind all the thinking. You're the quiet space that the thoughts are happening in.
So what do we call this collection of all these mistaken identities? You know, the roles, the history, the stuff, the thoughts. Well, there's a word for it: the ego. The ego is basically the story of me that we build up from all these outside things. And it's this made-up self-image that usually blocks us from seeing who we really, truly are.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It is through knowing who you are not that the greatest obstacle to truly knowing yourself is removed. See, the journey isn't about adding more things to your identity, it's about subtraction. It's about letting go of everything you're not so that your true nature finally has some room to breathe.
Here's another great one that's super practical. If small things have the power to disturb you, then who you think you are is exactly that small. This is like a little self-test you can do anytime. How do you react to the small stuff? Someone cuts you off in traffic or says something a little critical. If that can totally wreck your day, it's a pretty good sign you're identified with that small, fragile ego self.
So the big question is, how do we break free from this whole thing? Well, funny enough, the breakthrough usually doesn't happen when life is perfect. It's often when things completely fall apart. A huge loss, a really tough time, that a door can unexpectedly swing open to something much, much deeper.
And there's this fantastic analogy for it. Just picture your life as this giant, intricate tapestry, right? And it's woven from all the things you identify with: your job, your relationships, your whole story. Now imagine a great loss comes along and just rips a hole in that tapestry. And yeah, that's painful, of course it is. But if you look closely through that hole, you might just see a light shining through, a light that was actually there the whole time. That light, that's consciousness. That's the real you.
Okay, so how do we make sense of all this? How can we turn it into a sort of practical map for our lives? Well, a really helpful way to see it is to think of life as having two different dimensions. The thing is, most of us are only living in one of them, and honestly, that's where a lot of our unhappiness comes from.
First, you've got the horizontal dimension. This is like your everyday timeline, past and future. It's the world of thinking and doing, planning and remembering. And most of us, we live our entire lives on this plane. But here's the key. There's also a vertical dimension. It cuts right down through that timeline. This is the dimension of the present moment, of the now. It's this space of pure being, of pure awareness, and you can only ever access it right here, right now.
So this is the crucial point, right? How do we actually get to this vertical dimension? How do we find that true, deep happiness that doesn't come from the outside world, but from the simple, profound joy of just being?
So how do we do it? How do we tap into this? It actually starts with some really simple practices. Things like gratitude, just stopping to acknowledge all the good that's already here in your life. Or non-reaction. The next time you feel triggered, just for a second, don't do anything. Just pause. See what happens in that little space. And the most powerful one of all? Bring your full, undivided attention right here into the present moment. Feel your breath. Hear the sounds around you. Notice the stillness underneath all the noise.
And this, right here, this is the absolute core of it all. That true happiness, that joy of being, it's not something that comes to you from the outside world. It's not a prize you have to go out and win. It's already inside you, just flowing from that formless dimension, from consciousness itself. All you have to do is give it a little space to come out.
So to wrap this up, let me leave you with a final, really simple but incredibly powerful practice. Sometime today, can you just find a quiet moment and simply feel the sense of I am, and then add nothing to it? Not I am a doctor, or I am tired, or I am happy, just I am. See if you can rest in that simple, empty space, because in that quiet, you might just get a little glimpse of who you truly are.